Good afternoon.
Good evening. Welcome back to Tipsy Casting. I'm Jess, and this is my co host, Jen. Thank you for coming back for another week of chatting. And this week we have a fun topic film festivals. As casting directors, we don't often get a lot of insight or, let's be real, invitations to film festivals. So we just want to have a fun chat about what it's like as a CD to attend these kind of events, both as a newbie, aka Jen.
Or someone is experienced, aka Jess.
Well, first of all, before we dive in, what are you drinking this week, Jen?
So, because I just got back from a film festival and I got about 9 hours of sleep in 3 days, I am drinking a hot toddy, which is
Oh,
like hot water. What's kind of my version? Hot water, lemon, honey, a shot of whiskey, and then so I put in a peppermint tea bag just to see what it would be like because I know it's kind of calming. So that's my drink.
hmm.
What about you? What do you got for us?
Doing a little bit of Prosecco today. So something
Nice.
different for me, but
Nice. I
delightful.
like it. I have the hot soothing and you have like the bubbly champagne. I
Well,
love it. I love
I
it.
have not had the adventure that you've been having for the last week, so I'm very excited to talk about it because this was your
Yes.
first film festival ever,
Oh
and
my gosh,
you
ever.
dove
Entire
right
career.
in.
Yes, dove right in. But, before we get to that, we have to start with our wine of the week. So I
Oh,
need you to tell me. We can't forego our wine of the week. That's like the best thing.
I know, I
So
know.
tell me what's been going on with you. What do you got for to whine
Um,
about today?
for this week, speaking of Cannes, and we'll talk about it more. I actually had a movie that I was working on for a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. We finally finished piecing the cast together, and they took it to Cannes to get international distribution, which they were successful with. Um,
Nice.
and a lovely press release came out, and of course, my name was not there. And that was
What?
very frustrating because it's like I guess it sort of continues the fact that we're sort of first one in, last one out, or wait, the other way. Oh, first one out.
Yeah.
And as soon as they stop working with us, they forget about us to include us, and it's just sort of drives me crazy a little bit because again, lawyers, agents, managers, producers, like everyone is mentioned in the article, but you can't even include one more person, me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was and actually it was really lovely when I posted that press release on my social. So many people reached out to me asking, like, what the heck, why isn't your name there? And I thought that was a
Really?
really refreshing because usually that doesn't happen.
No, no. Well, I'm so sorry that happened. I mean, can you kind of say a little bit more like just because again, I feel like people always wonder, I know how much work you put into it, but like
Yeah.
say just how much you did for this because that's what, you deserve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie called Die Alone, and it's a post-apocalyptic movie. And when came on to it, or maybe it's been a little over a year now, Carrie Ann Moss was already attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we scoured, and a big part of it, like we were talking about in past episodes, that a big part of it is finding people who will give sort of the international value to the film to help sort of solidify their financing. And so that was a journey of going through different actors who would bring that value to it. And some people didn't respond, some people did. And finally we got our lead, Douglas Smith, who I adore, and I think he's such a wonderful
Love
talent.
him. I'm a
So,
huge
and
fan of his.
yeah, and I think for us, I feel like I can speak on both of our behalves that we feel pretty strongly that the people who end up with the job are really the ones that were meant to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sort of harping over what didn't happen, there's no point, because it would have been a different project entirely. So yeah, so we finally got Douglas in, and then we pushed production, and then we pushed production, and then we pushed, and we were trying to attach another actor. And finally, the one that was going to sort of lock in the financing to a degree, we locked in Frank Grillo.
Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah. So very excited that they're starting to shoot soon. And they found some success at Cannes, locking in their international distribution, and we'll
Yeah.
see what happens with it. But I really think like this was a movie that the script was really ambitious and really exciting, and really well written. And it's a bigger budget than the director has had the opportunity to work on. And I think,
Hmm.
he's really going to have the opportunity to showcase what he can do, because I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. That sucks though, because I feel like that's so much effort on your. Honestly, it's so much effort that you put in to get these things, and then I know that it takes a lot to sell it, and on the producer's part and everything, but they get acknowledged for that. It's like, where's the acknowledgement of like all the hours and stress and
Yeah.
everything you put into it? So,
Months and months and months of it. Yeah.
one day,
Anyway.
Jess, one day they'll acknowledge it.
Yeah. It'll be the same day we get an Oscar.
Yeah. Oh God, that
Yeah.
seems forever. No.
Yeah, but I will
Um,
say, hopefully, like, give props where they're due. Like, thank God the BAFTAs came around and started recognizing casting directors, and hopefully that
mhm.
will lay the groundwork for the Oscars to realize the contribution that we all collectively make. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, that was a great wine of the week. And we will hopefully, honestly, hope that it'll change soon. I'm gonna say, let's just hope for the best. And then, and also again, maybe somebody out there listening who has the opportunity to change it and put casting directors in press releases will do it. Okay.
Yes.
So
So,
can you no.
can you did. What did,
I
how?
know, I know.
Tell us
It's
everything, play by play.
I know. So I'm going to go back a little bit. So I have never been to a film festival, and it's not that they don't appeal to me, but they kind of like, again, it's elusive to me where I'm like, I've never really been invited. Well, I should say I've been to invited. I got invited, of course, right when COVID hit. Two of my movies were supposed to premiere. One was supposed to be at South by. Then the following year, one was supposed to be at Sundance. Both festivals ended up going virtual. So I ended up not going. And so outside of that, it's like, I never really wanted to pay my way, to go and, or because also like I love cinema, but it's like going and just watching movie, is a bit taxing. And I didn't really, and that's what I kind of thought about. I've just never really like deep dived into like what festivals are actually like. And so, this was so fascinating because like two of my friends here in London back a couple months ago, they're like, we're going to Cannes, you should come, it's so much fun, you're gonna love it. And I was like, but what am I gonna do? Like, I don't have a film in the festival,
Yeah.
I've never been to one, like what is there actually to do? And they're like, it's so much fun, you just gotta come and go. So I was like, okay. So a good friend of mine, Charlotte, who you've met, she and I started planning, and we got like, again, over here it's so cheap, it was like £100 to fly round trip from London into
Wow.
Nice. And so we got everything set up. And then again, like I mean, the way I travel in general is very last minute. I just kind of like go. I don't really make plans. We booked our Airbnb like 2 days before, which actually I found out is the way to do Can. Secret tip for everyone, because they said that there's a 30% dropout rate within the last week before the film. So like
Wow.
before the festival. And so if you wait until last week, so we got our Airbnb for dirt cheap. And it was only like a 15-minute walk up to the main palais, whatever it's called. Um, but yeah, so we went, and like the lead up was a lot because I'm not like Miss Fancy most of the time. I'm usually t-shirt, jeans kind of gal. And everyone's like, no, you got to dress up. It's the south of France. It's Cannes. Like you have to look really nice. And so deep dived into all my clothes, got everything nice, went and bought some stuff. And so we went last Wednesday through Monday. So we were there for 5 days. And it was the coolest experience, I will say. Like, I am so excited for next year. Because I didn't realize, one, Cannes is just fancy. I think it's like, if you're going to dive in head first and go to the biggest one there as possible. But there's something really cool to like going up and seeing the beautiful red staircase up that you've seen in every
Mm.
picture. And, I read in the trades all the time. And so we got there and Charlotte and I just like walked up the whole Crozet and like saw everything. And she's been quite a few times. So she like knows where everything is. And she also flew it in French, which is really helpful. um, so yeah, so we went and it's just so funny because I think there's like multiple ways to do a film festival. And I'm so curious to hear like your experiences in it because mine was like, again, not having a film there. I started noticing even with social media, I was like, oh my gosh, so many people I know are actually here.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they didn't have it. So like it is an industry wide thing where like all these people come, whether they have films or not, just
Mm-hmm.
to like have fun, make connections, meet each other. And it literally was like 6 months of networking all wrapped into 5 days. And I was like, but it's even more than just networking where like, we get put on generals, it's casting directors with producers, directors, actors. And it's always like, hey, Jess, nice to meet you. Dive into your thing. It's a bit impersonal where because you're like sitting there having these like drinks and
Yeah.
food and you start chatting about life and you actually become like quite good friends with some of them. And so I just got very lucky on my thing where like I feel like even whatever industry connections they are, whether they're producers or directors or whomever, I feel like I actually made real friends too.
Yeah.
And something that's been so, because I think, especially we've been talking a lot about in the podcast of like it's just really hard right now for casting and the industry, especially with the strike. Um, it was really refreshing to chat to people who have the same perspective of like we want the industry to keep moving forward and this is what we see needs to be done. And just like it feels a bit isolating at times, and so to go to something like this and feel so included and people like just get you and you're just sitting there having conversations with like people who are on the same level as you who totally understand how the industry functions and the problems within it and the good things about it and how we
Mm-hmm.
can all come together. It's just very exciting. So,
Oh, I love that. That
yeah.
sounds like such a fulfilling experience to go and spend that time there.
Yeah, it really was. So, I mean, I have to admit, so I'm gonna be fully honest, I did not see one movie. Like, I didn't go and watch one film.
I have to say that was my experience at well, I did Sundance at the beginning of this year, and
Okay.
it was the first year back since the pandemic. It was the first
Mm-hmm.
year in person, and
Mm-hmm.
the tickets were like sold out immediately. It was like a Taylor Swift concert. The website crashed, like everything happened, and it was so hard to get tickets. And so I ended up seeing exactly one movie, and that was only because Darren Darnborough, who was in it, and he got us
Oh.
tickets to it. And so it was the same experience. But honestly, after going and not having a movie there and not having a bunch of movies to see, and I don't know if this was any different from previous years because the year that I went when I had a movie there, I was a different professional. I was so much younger and,
Mm-hmm.
was surrounded by different people and for me it was everybody was hungry to connect this year
Yes.
and they wanted to bond and they wanted to talk and they wanted to exchange information and everybody was really excited. And for me, like that sort of cemented, as long as I'm financially capable, like I want to go to all of the local film festivals because that's where you bond with people, it's where you meet people. I want to go abroad. Like it's very exciting. I support you 100%.
I love that. I love that. And what's fascinating to me is that I really believe that like there's kind of two ways to approach festival, right? Maybe two or three ways of approaching. Because like to me, I guess I didn't realize like I knew that people go to sell things and like go to quote unquote go to market, and like
Yeah.
this kind of thing. But as a casting director, we're never involved in that really. So like it's like selling like actually selling it. And so it was
Yeah.
really fascinating to talk to so many producers who are there selling things and like find out like what that means.
Yeah.
And like actually how that works and like how hard they work to sell. I mean, these guys are going out, like they have meetings starting like 9 a.m. to 6, 7, then they have a dinner meeting, then they go out and it's just like it's nonstop. And
Mm.
I don't I don't envy them at all. Like it's so intense the amount of like onness you have to be, like, you have to be on, ready
Yeah.
to, like, you know, one of the producers I was hanging out with one night pulled out, like, because I was like, "Oh, what are you pitching?" Like, so, you know, tell me about yourself. Because again, I I like it being a casting director, honestly, because I think they take their like, we have nothing to gain from,
No.
like, it's not like when you once you go out with producers or directors, it's like they just kind of like let their guard down because they're like, okay, I just was selling all day. I could just like chat to you about it. It's
Yeah.
not so much because we have nothing to give them.
Yeah.
um, and he like pulls out this whole list of like 45 films that he's pitching and trying to sell. And I'm just like, holy cow, this is just like, and you think about that to have like that much knowledge in your head of like, so that whenever you go into a meeting with a sales agent, whoever you're trying to sell to that day, you have to know all these things in your head to know what they want, know the research of like what you're pitching, make sure you're pitching it properly so it really resonates. And
Yeah.
it just is fascinating to me.
So they have like a whole portfolio they're carrying around with them, basically, right? Of just
Pretty
different projects.
much. Yeah, and I
Huh.
mean, I don't know if they, like, carry, like, a briefcase with them, but, like, I mean, some of them I think just know it, and they just know
Wow.
their project so well, and they have, like, all these different, um sorry, my can you hear that?
Vacuum? Vacuum?
No, it's the washer.
It's barely there. It's fine.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, okay, I'll start that. I'll cut that out. But like, so I don't know if they have like, you know, whatever. They don't have it like carrying around like pieces of paper, like here you go. But to
Yeah.
like, they have their list in their head, they pitch it, and it's just, and then but then also like, so they're like, it's their job, you know. That's that one side where again, I don't think the majority of them go to many screenings or anything like that. They're
Yeah.
there purely for business, and it's like also to be fair though, to eat really good, and I mean all the restaurants
Yeah.
are amazing, like all the food is amazing, and so they like have this like glamour, like very glamorous life there where they're just like pounding it. And then you have the other side of like kind of the more glamorous side of whether if you have a film there, or maybe more my side of it where you don't have any pressure really of being there.
Hmm.
You're just there to like for the excitement and the again networking and or just like getting to know people. And like a big reason like going in what I thought was going to be like, oh, here I'm newer to the UK, I can probably meet some newer, you know, since it's in France, I would assume, you know, more European creators.
Yeah.
And I really, the majority of people I met were actually US people, but who are looking to do international things.
Yeah.
And again, because it's more of a relaxed environment, you just become friends with them and they're just so kind. You're having a blast.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, and then so the other side of it where like people are, you know, if you have a film, it's really cool because then you get to do the press day and you get to go do all these events and do the, you know, the walk and everything. Um, and I found that I will say there's a third one. There's a third side. And I'm curious again, because I'm kind of curious if it happens in other places. And now I'm like fascinated by this whole situation. So there's like a learning aspect for like the newer people in the industry. So like in Cannes, they have like every country has a tent or like a pavilion, and you can go and they have talks, they have panels, so that if you're learning about how to finance a film in the UK, they have a whole panel that will say this is how we've been handling it, and they'll bring in people from, I didn't go, so like people probably from BFI or other places that actually help you get your indies financed to like
Yeah.
help educate newer filmmakers on doing it. And so that part was fascinating to meet people who, because you could have like the most experienced person in Hollywood on one,
Hmm.
you know, having dinner with them one night, and then the next morning you go and hang out at the pavilion and you're meeting a person who's just trying to like figure out how to produce a movie.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's kind of like this really fascinating like mixture of so many different types of people.
Yeah. I think that's definitely common, like the panels and stuff that I feel like is across the board.
Okay.
Maybe not at the smaller ones, but Sundance, Tribeca, they had the panels to like connect and spotlight different people. Like I did a casting panel with Amanda Doyle and Lindsay Weissmuller when we were at Sundance. And so there's like different opportunities, and there's also, I think, because it's stateside, they do like alumni events for different film schools,
Oh,
which
that's
is really
cool.
cool. But But yeah, I think that it's such a great opportunity to sort of tick all the different boxes at these panels of like networking, of having like a creative void filled and fulfilled in that way, and then also you get to learn from sort of the top in the industry. And
Yeah.
so yeah, well, I'm so glad that you had that experience. That is so
Yeah.
fun.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's just like this thing where, again, we had no plans going in, and to be fair, my friend's quite, she knows quite a few people who were there,
Hmm.
but it's like so we would start out the day and we'd like do our little thing, we'd walk around and
Yeah.
do whatever we wanted, and then we would like kind of have a dinner idea, plans for dinner. We'd be asked to do, somebody
Hmm.
would ask us out for dinner, or something like that, but then you just don't know where the night's going to take you, and I just never thought because everyone, multiple people have told me they're like, if you come back from Cannes and if you're not hurting, you haven't done Cannes right. And so literally when everybody told me this, especially Charlotte, I was just like, yeah. I'm sure we stay out to like midnight or one. Sure. I'm sure it's fun. But then there's just so many parties and after parties and after parties.
Wow.
And then you just kind of like start bouncing around. People just start texting. They're like, hey, where are you at? And then you go to this party and then that turns into the next party. So, I mean, for 3 nights in a row, we didn't get home till 6:30 a.m.
Oh my
And
God.
like,
You
yeah.
have to like train your body to have the
I
stamina for
know.
that.
I know. I mean, and I will say, so there was a couple days I had meetings kind of set up because I knew people were going
Yeah.
to be there. And, and I was trying to help a couple of my producers like sell their stuff in terms of like, here's who the cast, we have, and,
Yeah.
here's other options. But there were some other meetings I had in like the first morning that we had stayed out till 6:30, we had a 10 a.m. meeting. And so I knew that was going to be tough. Like, but
Yeah.
then it's like it was really hard, and also I am not a morning person, and I need my coffee to function. And so it was really hard because like we were staying at an Airbnb where it's not like we had food in the house. So like we were meeting them for coffee, and I was like, I haven't had my coffee. So I was like thankful that was me and another person, because I was like, we kind of helped each other through the first 20 minutes until the caffeine kicked in.
That's funny.
Oh, it was just crazy. And then it's like by the second time, and then the next night, because I even said, I was like, I don't think I can do this another night. But then
Yeah.
there's something so energetic about it. You just do it.
Yeah, it's the
And
energy there.
yeah. And then by the third morning, like yesterday morning, I like actually woke up and I was like, okay, I'm tired. But like, so my body started to acclimate to like such little sleep. But then when I got home last night, I crashed, slept till noon today. I mean, it was crazy. But I mean, this is my craziest story. So I got the full can experience. I saw
Okay.
Leo.
Ooh,
Yep, I
do
feel
tell.
like I know. Well, it was so crazy because it was one of our weird nights where we'd had dinner plans, and there's this one beautiful hotel that both of us just kind of fell in love with called the Carlton, which is absolutely beautiful. And we actually, I mean, we saw like a ton of celebs stay there. I think I saw Harrison Ford because he had Indiana Jones premiere
Yeah.
there. And then who was the other one I saw walking? Oh, we saw Jude Law and Alicia Vikander. Um, but so we just like to go there. It has a great ambiance. You get to see the ocean from
Mm.
their outside deck. And so we were just sitting there having a drink and had some dinner, and then went to a different bar because a friend that we had met a couple nights before was like, hey, we're having a party here, you should come. So we went and we were chatting and it was fun. And then it just kind of took a turn because then somebody else was like, again, that party was kind of wrapping up and it was about 2 a.m. And there was that moment where you're like, do you just call it a night, go home? Because like while all those things were fun, we weren't like totally into it.
Yeah.
And so my friend was like, no, my other friend said there's this other party happening down by the Hotel Martinez, we should go. And so we go down there, and he's like, I'm at a bar across the street from this hotel.
Hmm.
But then he like wasn't texting us back when we'd gotten there. So my friend's like, well, that looks like a bar. There's like a whole lot. There was like this black door with all this security. She's like, oh, I bet that's it. And so we walk up, and she just like walks up, like, because again, we were assuming it was our friend's party.
Yeah.
And she walks up, and the security kind of stops her, and she's like, no, my friends are inside, we're here for the party. And they're like, what? And she's like, no, we're here for the party, just let us in. And so
Yeah.
she like walks through them, and then me and my friend, our other friend, just follow through, and we walk in, and we're like, what is it? And we're like, is this it? It was like this small little bar, like DJ, dance music. It was super fun. Um, but it was a little weird because it was a completely open bar with like really good alcohol. And
Yeah.
I almost, in my head, I was like, this seems like a little nice for just like a casual after, because any
Yeah.
after parties or anything we've been going to prior to this, you know, you had to pay for drinks or you were just out at a bar nearby and whatever.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden we see this guy who my friend knows who had been hanging out with a bit, and we gave him a big hug, and he had been going to that was the night that DiCaprio's movie
Movie. Yeah.
premiered. And he had been at all that stuff. And we're like, oh wow, it's so crazy, like run into you here. And he's like, this is the after party. And I was like, what? I was like, we just stumbled into this. And then I'm like, it's like it's slammed in there. There's so many people. And then I start looking around. I'm like, there's every beautiful, tall, skinny model walking around. I was like, I should have known. And then I was like trying, because it was so jam packed in there. I was like, oh, let's just kind of go to the back corner. And it was so funny because our other friend who was with us, while we were kind of like wiggling our way through, trying to just find like a place that we could have, drink our drinks, have a little
Yeah.
dance. My friend's like, I wonder if Leo's here, like if he's actually here. And I was like, nah, he probably left a long time ago. And so I'm standing there drinking my drink, and I literally like I have a martini. I like have a drink, and I look over because there's like a little like booth area that was occupied with people. And again, there's security everywhere, but I just
Yeah.
assumed that was normal. And I literally look over, and like 3 feet away is Leo. I was like, so like I like elbow my friend. I was like, hey, look it, she came, because she was so excited to like see him.
Yeah.
And to me, like, to be fair, I mean, I think it's cool, but I'm like, well, whatever, it's him. Like, he is who he is,
Yeah.
But I was like, he's right here. And she's like, oh my God.
We've been in
So
such close proximity.
I know. And it just seems so weird to me, almost like a little deja vu, or like, just like kind of dreamy. Cause I'm like,
This
this
doesn't
just doesn't,
happen. Yeah.
yeah. Like, how did I just walk in here? And then just because I was trying to find an open place to dance and have a drink, I end up standing pretty much right next to him.
That's
And
fun.
yeah, so I thought, like only in Cannes can that happen, that you can just like
Yeah.
pretty much brush your way into a party and be there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it was
I
fun.
found, because it's like everything about all these film festivals are so sort of like exclusive that you have to be on a
Mm-hmm.
list or you have to know or all of those things. And I remember we were walking through, we basically made a home of the Macro Lounge at Sundance, Amanda and
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
and it was such a cool spot. It was so much fun. And everyone was there and it was so great, and we were not on the list at all. And when I don't know if you know Jimmy Akimbola, but
Yeah.
we were staying
I
in the
just
same
met him
house
here,
as him.
actually.
Oh,
I met him just
he's
at the film festival. Yeah.
oh, I love it. He's an absolute doll, but he such a sweetheart, so charismatic, but so I feel like he knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at some point at the Macro Lounge, and Amanda just walked in and she's like, we're here to see Jimmy Akimbola, and they just like let her in because she walked in with such like assertive intention.
Yeah.
And I guess that's all it takes. I mean, you can walk into Leonardo DiCaprio's after party just the
Yeah, yeah,
same.
exactly. We found that out because there were so many times where, again, like we had connections to people who were in the party, so we kind of knew where they were.
Yeah.
And most of the time we're like, well, what's the worst they can do? They can just say no. But if you
Yeah.
walk up there and you're just like, no, I'm supposed to be here, like it was kind of funny because CAA threw this big party and I'm repped at CAA.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we should be able to get into that, right? And so, and I also had a friend who I knew was going. And so I was like, yeah. So I called my agent. I was like, hey, can you just put me on the list tonight? Since I am a CAA client. And he was
Mhm.
like, yeah, sure. Let me see. But again, he's in LA.
Yeah.
And it's like, by the time I think the party started at like 8 or 9. And so I got busy or whatever. So and so I was like, I didn't know if he did or not.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we know where it is. We know what time it is. Let's just go. And worst case scenario, I'll pull up my IMDb and be like, look, I'm repped by you guys. And so I just walked up there, and the girl, of course, had the list. I
Mhm.
gave her my name. She's like, you're not on here. And I said, oh, that's so weird. I was like, well, I'm repped by CAA. And then this girl behind it, you could tell who's kind of like maybe the CAA rep or somebody to make sure everything went smoothly.
Yeah.
She walked over and she's like, oh, who's your agent? I said, Brian Boot. And she was like, oh, okay, yeah, come on in. I was like, great, awesome. And then
I
I was
love
like, come
that.
with me. And like my friends got
Yeah.
in, and it was it was a weird party, but it was fun. And like, again, got to see a ton of people and meet lots of fun, exciting
Yeah.
people. But yeah, confidence
I
is key.
Yes. I think it's you're talking about all the different places you're going, and all I can think of is, God, her feet must have hurt.
Oh my God. I wish I could. This is hilarious. So I have two stories. One, my feet look like sausages because I was in heels this whole time. We wore heels every
That
night,
sounds
walked
miserable.
everywhere. We did Uber a few times, but sometimes we're just like, what's the point of Ubering when it's just like, it's just a bit of
It's not
pain.
that far.
Um,
Yeah.
um, so literally both me and Charlotte's feet are just like sausage. Like we have kinkles. Like, it's just,
Oh,
she's like, let's soak them in Epsom salt and like drinking tons of water. And anyway, it's pretty
keep them
crazy, but
raised.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was intense. I would take Advil out with me. I would take two before I left, take two like in the middle of the night because it just hurt. But it was funny because we were hanging out at a friend of ours had like an apartment that was really on like almost on the Crozet.
Yeah.
And we were just like it started pouring, so we asked if we could just stop in. It was like literally 5 a.m. and they'd been texting that they had just gotten home, and we're like, can we just stop in until it stops raining so we don't get soaked? And he's like, yeah, come over, we're just like having a snack before we go to bed. And so we get in there and I was like, do you mind if I take my shoes off for like 10 minutes? And they're like, yeah, of course. So I take my shoes off and one of them picks it's a man. He picks up my shoe and he's like, you have been walking in this all night? I was like, yes, that is why I asked if I could take them off. And he's like, I don't know how you guys
Yeah.
do it. I was like, every night in 3-inch heels. I mean, because you gotta look, I mean, everyone who goes out looks gorgeous. And so it's kind of a status, I don't know, thing, but and you just kind of forget about the pain when you're having so much fun. But it was bad.
I can't do that. I'm literally this is probably the one thing that will keep me away from Cannes is the idea of having to dress up. I if my feet are in pain, I am miserable. I am the
Mm.
most upset human and I can't survive it. Any other part of me, I'm in pain, like I can muscle through it, but my feet are
Hmm.
it just makes me angry.
Yeah. Well, have you ever found, I mean, this might be a little too girly for the podcast, but have you ever found that like shoe that the heel that it just works for you? Like, cause I feel like almost every girl has the one heel they can wear and their feet do well in it?
Yeah. I mean I have the like what is it? I don't even remember what it's called now. No, but I have it. I have a shoe.
Yeah. So to be fair, those were mine. I brought because when I was packing to move to London, I literally was like, I got rid of every shoe that was painful. I was like, because I was only able to bring so much with me, and I was like,
Yeah,
so the shoes I was wearing are one of the most comfortable heels I have
but
in
still
my arsenal.
uncomfortable.
But still, yeah, after like 12 hours of standing in them, yeah, not
I'm
fun.
the girl that packs like the Dr. Scholl's ballerina slippers in her bag just so if I'm miserable, I can swap. And I don't
Oh,
think that's really looked upon highly.
no, honestly, so many do. I saw
Right.
so many times. And Charlie and I were saying like next year when we go, she's like, we've got to just bring like a little bit of a bigger clutch so we could shove some like,
Yeah.
ballet slippers in or, something flip flops or something just to
Yeah.
help a little
Like,
bit.
well,
It
for
was
those who are
crazy.
listening, there's your
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man,
So how was like Sundance, Tribeca, Palm Springs? Like what's the vibe of that? Because again, like I feel like Cannes very like bougie.
extravagant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Sundance, you're freezing. This is the
Hmm.
experience that I've had both times, and nobody really cares what you're wearing, which is
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I the difference because like the first time I went to Sundance, I slept on the floor with like 7 other people, and this
Oh
was when
my
I was like
gosh.
25, 26. So it's like
Yeah.
I was a different professional. That it
Yeah.
was the time that I had a movie in the festival, and
Hmm.
I think that's the one thing I will say is like people don't really know this about casting is like we have to negotiate in our contracts to have tickets to festivals, otherwise we don't
Yes.
get tickets invitations to
Yes.
festivals for the
Yep.
movies that we've like toiled over, and sometimes
And
it's
made
sort
no
of
money on.
right. And it's the most baffling thing of like we have to fight for them a lot of the times. Like unless like the
Yep.
filmmaker is automatically in your corner, we have to like we like it's a sticking point that I won't close a deal if I don't get festival tickets anymore.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so the first year it was very like, it felt like a college trip, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to go see some movies, and that
Yeah.
was a very unique experience because I feel like random stuff happens at Sundance. So like
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was, oh God, what was the name of the movie? It was like the greasy murderer, greasy serial killer. It was a movie that Elijah Wood had produced, and I think he
Mm.
might have been in. I can't remember exactly,
Okay.
but I remember going to the party and like he was DJing. I was like, "What is this? This is so random." But I learned like I'm not a candidate for places that you have to be on the list if I'm not on the
Mm.
list. You know what I mean? I
Oh, yeah.
especially in cold places. Like I'm a California girl through and through. I cannot stand outside and wait to see if I'll get into something.
Yeah.
So it's not for me. But this time was a much better experience. I think we went with the We Auditioned folks, and they invited us to stay in their house, and it was really lovely. All of the actors that we like bunked with were really lovely people,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just nice, and like a lot of them knew a lot of people, and so we just like locked arms and went with them. And I think
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing. And I don't know what your personality and experiences in those sort of settings, but Amanda and I think we're like the same human in some ways, and we tend to gravitate towards the corners, and because of,
Oh,
like we're more like we observe rather than engage, especially,
really?
yeah, especially when we're not like we don't know somebody already. And so I I kept having to remind her, and then in turn she would do it to me, where I'm like, we're not here to be in the corner. We're going to the
Mhm.
center of the room and we're gonna meet people. That's why we're
Yeah.
here. So that was really entertaining and a different experience, and like it was lovely. And then Tribeca was different because I felt like I wasn't really involved in the festival. Like I went to
Hmm.
go see the movie and support the film and the actors, and we did like the premiere, but beyond that I didn't really engage in the festival as like a whole.
Yeah.
um and then Palm Springs, I think, is very intimate. Like I had a movie Linoleum in it this last, I think it was January
Yeah. This last
or
year, I remember
February.
you posting
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was really fun. I like went with my sister. There was a lot of, I had missed the days that my cast and filmmakers were there. And
Oh,
so
bummer.
I just went to go support it, and I really wanted to see it in theaters before it came out in
Hmm.
sort of a limited wide release. And so it was just nice. It was a very intimate sort of Main Street situation, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I do. It's kind of like sparked me to like want to go to more
Yeah.
and like really engage. And it is quite funny because I think we'd actually have different, like opposite personalities at these. Because
Yeah.
my whole thing is I will go up and talk to anybody. Like I am just like, it's kind of who I am in general. Of like I just love engaging, and especially since I've moved to London, it's not the easiest to like start a whole new life and be like, okay, now I have to go to make all new friends and like do all this. So
Yeah.
I forced myself prior to moving. I was like, when you move there, Jen, you are going to put yourself out there. You're just going to talk to whoever. And which thankfully our job does lead us in that direction of like we can pretty much hold a conversation with anybody with the amount of actors we meet and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny because like we went to the parties and I met so many people, especially just like waiting for a drink at the bar. I
Yeah.
would just be like, hey, who are you? Like what do you do? And it's
Yeah.
just to me it's like kind of the happy accidents when that happens,
Yeah.
because again, like I met somebody who was an Amazon buyer, and I was like, what does that mean? And so she sat there and told me for like 20 minutes what her job was. I was like, I didn't even know this existed. Like, what a cool job that you come to the
Yeah.
festivals, you look, and she's like, here's what we're looking for, here's the criteria. So I go out. I think she's one of these ones that people are meeting with to try to
Yeah.
sell.
That was a
Um,
coveted meeting that you had that you
I
didn't even
know, and
know.
I know, and it was all because neither of us could get a drink, and we're just standing there like, um, but it was even funnier too because I was at a certain party. I won't name which one because they were not like serving the men a lot. Like so, it was so weird. I was watching it happen where like I was kind of like maybe two or three deep in the line to get a drink, and
Yeah.
I started noticing they just kept giving all the drinks to the girls, and some guys were just kind of standing there waiting forever. And so like I got up to the bar before like four of them who had already been at the front. I've been
Yeah.
sitting there, and the guy next to me looked so distraught. He's like, I just want 3 drinks. Like, cause you could tell he was sent to go get them. And so I was like, here, I was like, I'll get you your drink. I was like, clearly this guy is
Yeah.
only serving women. Just tell me what you want. So I ordered all his drinks. I mean, it was open bar too. So like, it's not
Yeah.
like I'm paying anything for him. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, tell me what you want. I'll order them. And so I ordered them for him. He's like, thank you so much. He's like, what do you, and then he introduced himself,
Yeah.
and I was like, so that stuff I think is just kind of like fun to interact. And, um, I don't know. Cause I do think, especially in my situation where I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into, I was like, I don't know what any of these people do, except if you're a celebrity or somebody I know.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no idea who all these people are. And I'm like, it's kind of fascinating that all these people are in the same industry, and yet we have no
Yeah.
idea what some people do.
I don't know if it's as prevalent in Cannes, but because like when I went to Sundance this year, there were so many just like fans that came to watch the movies and
Hmm.
to sort of embrace the scene in that way. Is that a thing there, or is it just like
Yes
90%
and
professional?
no. Yeah, I would say yes and no. Because we always would see like fans lining up, to see the premiere walk up and stuff, and but then there's like 2 main hotels right along the Crozet that like a lot of
Yeah.
people stay in, that they would just have like barriers set up where people just wait all day and see who came and went. And
Yeah.
even it was like, I was like, I feel like a celebrity because I had a couple meetings in some of them, and I would walk out and like everyone's just like looking at you, and you're like, oh,
Who is that?
hey, don't take my photo, please.
I love
No,
that.
but I saw that. But on the flip side, there was because it's like, beautiful season in the south of France right now. There are
Yeah.
tons of tourists that are just like
Yeah.
pushing their stroller wrong, or, laying on the beach, and, or
Yeah.
just, kind of exciting. You kind of tell because a lot of people who are there for the festival wear badges. So you can kind of
Hmm.
tell who's there for it and who's not.
Yeah.
Um, but it is quite funny. Like literally, we were taking our taxi out of town to get to the airport, and we saw Phoebe Waller-Bridge just like walking down the road.
I would lose my
And I
mind.
know both of us were like, huh? My friend was like, can we stop the car and get out and go talk to her? And I was like, no, we have to get to
Ugh.
the airport. But it's like that because I just think like they don't, like, nobody really cares, and nobody. It's almost like either your industry and you don't care who they are, or you're a
Yeah.
fan in the south of France. You probably don't know what people look like so much, unless they're walking up a red carpet or coming out of a
Yeah.
hotel.
I know at Sundance, I remember seeing Tessa Thompson. Uh,
Mm.
I have such a fond memory of her. I'm trying to remember what the show was. I want to say it was The Return that we were casting, and she came in for that project. And I think it was just after she had shot Selma. And I,
Ah,
I remember she was talking about how she feels like she couldn't break through a certain, ceiling, and that she was having a really difficult time. And literally that movie came out and it just changed everything for her. And so it's so nice to, like, she doesn't know who I am out of the space
yeah.
of that room, but it's so nice to see what she's evolved into. And so I
Mm-hmm.
remember at Sundance this year, I saw her walking down the street, and I think it's like we recognize the actors, but they're so
Yeah.
bundled up and like covered completely because it's so cold that nobody bothers anybody, which is, I'm sure,
Do
lovely for
fans
everybody
go
else.
to that kind of
Oh
stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was so many people just walking by, and obviously it's in Salt Lake City, so there's so
Mm-hmm.
many cities around, and so there's a lot of locals. But I will say the most fun of it, because I was flying from LA, Amanda was flying from Atlanta, and then Lindsay Weissmiller was flying from Florida. And so we were all meeting in the airport, and because we were getting in very close times, and I was just
Yeah.
sitting and waiting for everyone to get there. And you see all of these like chauffeurs with all the
Yeah.
signs, and I'm like, "Ooh, this person's here," and "Ooh, that person's here." And so I remember sitting in the middle of it and just texting them, being like, "Oh, I guess this actor is coming to Sundance." It was very entertaining.
That is funny. I love that. I love that so much. It's I mean, to be fair, if anybody wants to see a celebrity, go to a
Right,
film festival. I mean,
right,
they're walking everywhere. I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of hard not to be to miss them pretty much. But
Yeah, I want to go to the Santa Barbara Film Festival. I heard that's like that one
mm,
is building a good reputation, and it's so pretty there, and it's a train ride
yeah.
away, so why not?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think it's really cool that you got on a panel at one of them, because I am kind of, it's like I go and I'm just like, it was really exciting for me because I think like I said earlier, being a casting director in the situation, it's like the easiest way to meet people and get them to drop their guard around you. And most of the time, usually it's like a networky, it's an industry event,
Yeah.
wherever so it, it was kind of interesting to see like their perspective on casting directors. And I was like, why don't casting directors get into more of these things? Like, I wish it was more known that,
Hmm.
like, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity right now to somehow. So, I mean, again, I don't know maybe what the answer is, but I would love to hear your experience, like being on a panel,
Yeah.
because I think, for me, who's, again, I've been in the industry for over 15 years, never have even gone to one. I'm like, wow, why didn't I go? And it's like,
Yeah.
nobody's ever invited me. Nobody, and I don't know too many people who have. I know there were a couple casting directors at Cannes, but it was like a very small little
Yeah.
panel that was just like a blip. And I'm like, how do we create more of a presence at these things so that we can be like, hey,
Yeah.
we're here.
Well, we used to have through CSA, we used to have a committee. I think it was Sunny Bowling who was like spearheading that committee where she would do outreach to the different festivals and set up panels through the membership, basically. I don't know if that
Really?
exists anymore because we've had a couple of iterations of boards since then.
Yeah.
Um, but I know that I think it was Just for Laughs that had a casting panel. South by usually has something. And I know the We Audition folks, Rich and Darren, they always will host a casting panel through We Audition at all of the different
Yeah.
festivals.
Yeah.
So they're really good about spotlighting us. I feel like there's a lot of different um, things that we're also not included on that have nothing to do with the panels of the deadline contenders events. There's like the
Mm-hmm.
VFX artist and the editors and then nobody ever showcases the casting director. I remember before the pandemic, I went to the one it was like an entire day at the DGA, and it was everybody there and only one director, and I'm going to forget her name, but she was the director of Slim and Queen, that movie with Daniel
Oh,
Kaluuya.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, she was the only one who actually acknowledged her casting director while doing that panel, and that was an
Really?
entire day of panels.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. That just seems crazy. I wonder, like, I feel like there's got to be something we can do. I almost want to like see if it can be contractual or something, of like, kind of just how we
Yeah.
work it into everything else of like, if we're negotiating, just say like, if there's a 4-year consideration panel at some point,
Yeah.
production will do best efforts to have, allow the casting
So-
director to be a part of it as well,
yeah. No, that's
because I don't
smart.
think it can
I
be
don't
like a
know.
yes or no thing where like you either get, because I don't think they're a bit out of control of that. But I think if we can start making it more of a priority,
Yeah, and
that
set a
might be a way.
precedence for it. Yeah.
Hmm.
In due time, hopefully.
Yeah. I will say though, Spotlight had a good Spotlight was there and had a panel.
Yeah.
And they had Lucy Lennox there and stuff. So which was really
Oh,
exciting and cool, and really proud
yeah.
of them for doing that. But
Yeah, they
yeah, and
were part
maybe.
of my panel. Matt Hood was part of the panel that I did for We Audition at Sundance.
Oh, that's
So they're
amazing. Yeah, they
very
seem to
involved.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like those two kind of go hand in hand. That's really awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
amazing.
that's very like it gets me inspired and hungry to start seeking more festivals and going to meet people,
Hmm.
because really that's at this stage of the post-pandemic life and the industry as it looks right now, it's the only way to meet people, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly, my friend and I talk about all the time. It's like, even if you just go and sit have a drink in one of the main hotels that, a lot of people are staying at or something like that,
Mhm.
not even with the intention of meeting somebody, but you will just naturally meet so many people that you would never have even thought would be on your radar. And,
Yeah.
and that's where I feel very lucky about Can, because I was like, I feel like so many worlds were open to me in not only
Mhm.
a like industry way, but also like a friendship. I feel a bit more included in the industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were a couple of times where, again, I was sitting next to these like huge producers and these really influential people. And I'm sitting there having like a very knowledgeable conversation. I'm holding my own. So it did
Yeah.
mountains for my confidence of like, oh my gosh, I can totally go toe to toe with you. I can give you, and they were asking me advice on actors and who I
Yeah.
liked and who, like, we were trading war stories. And it's just fascinating because I think like once you can take away that barrier that Hollywood kind of creates of like, I don't know who you are and I don't know whatever, like I think that kind of, and you could just talk to each other on a human level.
Yeah.
I think that just changes everything. And I think honestly, I'm the same. I'm going to start going to more film festivals because I think that's the place where you can finally, get to know people and really connect on a different level rather than
Yeah.
just a networking base level,
Yeah. It's a very bonding experience.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, you and I've talked about on the podcast before, like we just like working with people that are good and nice and,
Yeah.
we want and create good content. And how much better than to sit there and have wine for 4 hours with somebody to find out if you guys like each other, they
Yeah.
enough to work with each other. Cause if I would have done that with like some difficult directors I've worked with in the past, I mean, I would have never done that. Like,
Yeah.
I would have figured that out quite quickly and been like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm good.
I'll take a pass on this one. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's really, I mean, it was fascinating to me and I'm so grateful that I did it.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that you did it too. And now hopefully I will get my stuff together and maybe go for the next year if I can find some orthopedic shoes.
Yeah. To be fair, it's funny. I was telling my friend tonight because it's nighttime in London right now, and it's the first night we didn't like go out other than traveling last night. Yeah. And I was like, it's so weird not to be like putting my makeup on and putting on this fancy dress and heels, and I'm just in my t-shirt and sweatpants.
And that is a space that I love to be in. T-shirt and sweatpants. Especially after like lockdown of COVID and nobody cares about anything anymore. So I'll just wear my comfy clothes everywhere.
Yeah. Oh man. It was certainly a fun time, honestly. And I do hope I get to go to Sundance sometime because I feel like that's one that's like for the books of that and TIFF. I would like to go to TIFF. I think have you ever you've never been to that one?
I've never been to TIFF, but I would like to, and I also really want to go to Just for Laughs because I think it just seems like so much fun. Yeah. And even though I don't get to cast a lot of comedy, I love comedy. Yes. And I just want to go enjoy myself and meet those people.
Yeah. Same. I love comedy too. Yeah. I'm excited. I think I'm going to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
I'm jealous.
So everyone, ever since I moved here, everyone's like, you got to go for at least a week. And I hear the comedy up there is spectacular. Like in that festival is really amazing. So I think I'm going to I have to figure it out because I have some conflicts in August, but I have to figure out how to go because I think it would be really fun. And I live for comedy. I love it.
Yes. Well, you'll have to let me know when you go because my friend Nick he's an actor out there. He's from Scotland and then moved to the States and now moved back for like 2 months because he got a show.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I'll have to connect you with him.
Let me know.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, you must probably want to go to sleep. I would imagine.
Yes, probably.
It's getting to that time. Still recovering from the last 6 days. So So I feel like that's a great way to wrap up our evening here. It's been so fun talking about all the festivals, and if anybody else has insight or tips on all the different festivals, let us know. Send it, like, comment on social and stuff. We're excited to share as much as we can.
I think we should start doing something where we allow comments on Instagram and stuff, and then we'll talk about them on the podcast. That would be fun. Maybe that would be a good way to like interact with everyone. So
cool.
All right, well, I shall talk to you next week then.
Yes, have a good night.
My drink is gone.
Mine too. It's time. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
If you love listening as much as we love sharing, click subscribe on our YouTube channel or find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening.